Here we go, back with another breakdown with the Grinder. We're gonna break down today the UFC 287 fights going down this Saturday night in Miami, Florida. We got Alex Pereira versus Israel Adesanya 2. We're gonna start first. We're gonna break down the main card and we're gonna break down the main event on the prelims. So we're gonna start first today with the main event on the prelims, which is going to be Kevin Gastelum versus Chris Curtis. We have Kevin Gastelum at 17-8, and we have Chris Curtis at 30-9. This fight here is going to be interesting. Kevin Gastelum is coming off a little bit of a layoff. If I could remember, his last fight was against Ian Heinisch, maybe. This should be interesting. Him coming back after a long layoff. Chris Curtis, low volume striker, but he's been finding the finish lately with that one punch. I remember he finished in his last fight Joaquin Buckley with a counter punch, and he also finished the guy in the middleweight top rankings. You remember?
I just remember his fight before Buckley being the Hermanson fight.
Yeah, right. He knocked out somebody when he first came into the UFC and kind of blew him off
the top of my head.
But anyways, this fight, I'm thinking that Chris Curtis is gonna come out here with one punch, try to counter shot Gastelum, and I think Gastelum should try to push the takedowns maybe.
Right.
They have Gastelum right now as an underdog, and that's my take on it. We're gonna have to really just see what kind of Gastelum comes Saturday night to fight.
Right, especially like you said, Chris Curtis is a low volume striker, so you can expect probably Kelvin Gastelum to take the first round or two, probably just on volume, especially if he's able to mix in the grappling and kind of stall Chris against the cage or whatever. So this will be interesting to see what Kelvin does not to get caught.
And the guy that Chris Curtis actually knocked out, I was referring to, was Phil Haas. He knocked him out, and he also knocked out Brendan Allen, who's on a run. So Chris Curtis has a few knockouts actually in the UFC as well. So it'll be interesting to see how he does with another step up in competition. So my pick in that fight, honestly, I'm gonna go with Kevin Gastelum. I just seen more of him since the Ultimate Fighter days, and it's honestly hard to pick against him.
Right.
Even though his last few fights he hasn't been shown his best form, but we're gonna see how he comes back after a layoff.
Right, and I think I'm gonna agree with that one. I think this is gonna be hard for Kelvin to get hit in one shot. He's been in there with some really good dudes like Whitaker and Adesanya, Darren Till, like a lot of high level strikers. So I feel like he's gonna do enough to protect himself, and he's gonna stay active enough to probably take it all 3 rounds.
All right, so now moving on to the main card, we have Raul Rosa Jr. versus Christian Rodriguez. Okay, so first we have Raul Rosa Jr. You've seen him fight in the Contender Series, grappling heavy style he has. Also, we've seen him fight his last fight in the UFC. He fought Jay Perrin, I believe, and won by a rear naked choke. So I believe he's going to come out here and just try to focus on initiating a good grappling game. And the opponent he's fighting actually is Christian Rodriguez. I think this is going to be actually a big step up for Raul. Christian Rodriguez is 8-1, and Rosa is 7-0. Actually, me and Christian Rodriguez are supposed to fight on the same card back in 2021 versus when I was in a fight on CFFC, but my opponent pulled out, vagina injury. But so it's an interesting fight because Christian Rodriguez actually trains with Rufus Sport, so I know he's coming with a good team. And actually, I'm gonna roll the dice and I'm gonna go with the underdog, Christian Rodriguez, to beat the 18-year-old.
Yeah, no, I'm taking Raul Rosas. I just, it's hot. He's undefeated. He's a young dude. He's got a lot of confidence. And I know how this stuff works. When the UFC thinks they strike gold, they try to, they're looking for people that are going to give good fights so they can build names off each other. And I just feel like Raul Rosas is going to try to take advantage of that.
Okay. All right. So going to the next fight, we have Kevin Holland versus Santiago Ponzinibbio. We have Kevin Holland 23-9, and Santiago 29-6. This fight, I'm gonna go. Actually, I'm leaning more towards Santiago. Kevin Holland, actually, if you guys remember, he just fought not too long ago in December versus Wonder Boy, and he took a lot of damage in that fight. So I'm interested in seeing how does his chin hold up after coming back so quick, after just going through a war after 3 months. Mm-hmm. Also, I thought he broke his hand in that fight, so I'm interested, how can you come back so fast after 3 months? Mm-hmm. So, and Ponzinibbio, his last fight, we seen him against Alex Moreno. That was a good fight, actually. He was actually down in the fight in the 3rd round. He was able to get that knockout and come back and win the fight by knockout. Mm-hmm. Ponzinibbio been around for a while. I remember seeing his fight against Neil Magny when he destroyed him with leg kicks. He got sick and then he took a few years off and just hasn't been 100% when he came back. But I think this is a good spot for him, especially, again, Kevin Holland just came back not too long from a war. He's on a 2-fight losing streak. And I just think Kevin Holland's focused on more of clout and entertainment more than being the best martial artist. So with that said, I'm going to go with Santiago Ponzinibbio. I think he gets it done by knockout.
Well, I'm interested in this matchup a lot, actually. It's just to piggyback off that, in Ponzinibbio's last fight, actually, what was set up, him getting the TKO over Morono, he got clipped right before it, and Morono got reckless, and that was a short notice fight for Morono. So I think that Kevin Holland, being a little bit taller, had KO power at 185, knocking out Joaquin Buckley with 1 punch. Less to worry about with the wrestling. Ponzinibbio's a striker. I think that Kevin Holland, if he can put the hands on him, we'll see maybe a finish coming his way. It'll be interesting to see, though. Ponzinibbio's got a lot of experience.
All right, the next fight we have is in the featured bout, Rob Font versus Adrian Yanez. We have Rob Font 19-6, and Adrian Yanez 16-3. I believe Adrian Yanez is on a 9-fight winning streak, and Rob Font, I think he's coming off of 2 losses to Jose Aldo and Marlon Vera. This fight's gonna be interesting. Honestly, I think Adrian Yanez is the favorite, but Font has been fighting a tougher competition. Adrian Yanez is on a 9-fight winning streak, but he hasn't fought anyone, I think, on the level, like the top 5, like Rob Font. So it'll be interesting to see how this fight goes. But Rob Font been dropped a lot, actually, in his fights. He's more of just a one-punch type of fighter, boxer. So I'm actually going to go with Adrian Yanez, I think, in this fight as well. But it's not as easy as the odds are showing. So, I mean, if you have a little bit of money, I think I'll sprinkle some money on Rob Font and take the underdog if you have some money you want to throw.
Yeah, no, I got Adrian Yanez in this one as well. Rob Font's really experienced. He's got a really good jab. He controls distance pretty well. Like you said, he's been in there with some pretty good competition. He's been fighting ranked dudes for a while now. But Yanez, willing to come forward. He throws punches in bunches. He's savage. I imagine he's going to try to just walk Rob Font down, get through that jab, do some damage, and get out of there with another finish.
All right, in the co-main event, we have Gilbert Burns versus Jorge Masvidal. We have Jorge Masvidal at 35-16 and Gilbert Burns at 21-5. With this fight, it's going to be interesting. You have Gilbert Burns. He's on a, I think, 2-fight winning streak. Has wins over Stephen Thompson and Neil Magny his last 2 fights. Masvidal is on a 3-fight losing streak right now, losing his 2 fights to Kamaru Usman and losing to Colby Covington. Well, this fight should be interesting. Masvidal, obviously, we know he's going to look to stand up and strike. Gilbert Burns is probably going to just look to make it dirty, I feel like it. But people can't forget, Gilbert Burns did get knocked out by Dan Hooker. So if he got knocked out by Dan Hooker, I'm sure Masvidal should have the power to at least knock him out. we'll just have to see what type of game plan Gilbert Burns initiates. Does he look to force the takedowns? Because he's a good grappler, but he's not the best at takedowns. So we're going to see what Masvidal does. Does he works on controlling the distance, looking to explode in? Or does he accept the takedown and gets held on the cage? The odds on this fight is highly, they have Gilbert Burns as a huge favorite. If you have money, honestly, this is a dollar a pass situation. I wouldn't put no money on this fight. Yeah, it should be an interesting fight. Not the best martial artist with Masvidal, I feel like, but nowadays it's just about, just being a big name and selling. So I feel like Masvidal, he has to win though, because if he loses 4 fights in a row, it's gonna be time to probably retire. So with this fight, honestly, I'm gonna go with. Technically, I'm going with Gilbert Burns. I think he has just a bigger toolbox to beat Masvidal, but you never know habits. You never know. So my pick for this fight is Gilbert Burns.
Right, and I think my safe pick is Gilbert Burns as well, but I just want to highlight that Jorge Masvidal, really crafty, he's really good at setting up some sneaky things. That's why he was able to knock out Darren Till, and I mean, even though it was only 5 seconds, it wasn't really set up, but it was set up, the flying knee on Ben Askren. Seen him throw short elbows in the clinch before too, even before his UFC career. He's always had pretty nice elbows in the clinch. So if Gilbert's struggling to get Jorge down, look for Jorge to kind of sneak some shots in, either in the clinch or in the kind of no man's land between the striking range and the wrestling range. Because I noticed when Burns fought Wonder Boy, there were times where as he was chasing the takedowns, he got a little reckless. He's known to get hit a lot. So, but if he can get to the hips, I think he'll control the fight.
Okay, and then your main event for the middleweight championship, we have Israel Adesanya, the last style bender, versus Alex Poatan Pereira, 7-1 versus Israel Adesanya, 23-2. This is the second time they're fighting MMA, the 4th time overall. They fought twice before kickboxing. In this fight, we have Alex Pereira, great kickboxer, very powerful, very big for the weight class. Then we have the challenger, the former undisputed champion, defending his belt a lot of times, was almost ready to beat the records. Fast, Israel Adesanya is fast. Style bender, obviously. A lot of finesse moves, tricky, crafty. But honestly, Alex Pereira, I think, had the equalizer. The first fight they had in MMA was good. Israel Adesanya did a lot of good things in it, but still that did not matter. So that's what I'm putting into account, saying that, hey, if Israel couldn't get the job done after putting such a good performance up, that means he's going to have to be pretty much perfect to beat this guy. And being perfect over 25 minutes is a long, long time. So the first time they fought, I picked Alex Pereira actually as well, because knowing that they're both elite strikers, this fight is going to take place on the feet. If Israel tries to wrestle this guy, he's going to get tired because his body's just not used to wrestling for 25 minutes. He used to striking for 25 minutes. So if you're telling me you're going to strike with Alex Pereira for 25 minutes, I'm going to put my bet on Alex Pereira to find that one punch. All it's going to take is land that one left hook within that 25 minutes. So my pick for this, and still UFC middleweight champion, Alex Pereira, I think he wins this fight by knockout.
Yeah, no, sometimes you come across matchups where someone has somebody's number. It's they say, oh, if dudes fight 10 times, there's 10 different outcomes. But I don't think that's the case here. I think Pereira gets it done. Izzy needs to finish. It's going to be hard to finish Pereira without taking risks and getting hit back. You can't get countered with that kind of power, I think, and still.
And that's it, guys. Thank you for tuning in to break it down with the Grinder. UFC 287 going down this weekend.